Well, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to the first ever Stone Mountain Records production. Today, we are going to be tackling Channel 33 RPM's 50 album challenge, pretty much. He put the challenge out there. You pick 50 albums, they could be records, they could be CDs, they could be cassettes, ones that you haven't listened to in roughly 2 years or so, and you make a conscientious effort to actually listen to them, just to help yourself get out of maybe a rut that you're finding yourself in terms of what you're listening to. Maybe you're listening to the same stuff over and over again, and you think to yourself, you know what, I want to listen to something new. So I have decided to tackle this challenge because I have a lot of CDs that just have never really seen the light of day. I've never really given a chance. Maybe I've listened to once and just never rethought of listening to them again. So without further ado, we're going to get cracking into it. First and foremost, with Aerosmith, with their, what I believe is their latest release, Music from Another Dimension. I listened to this once when it first came out, never really gave it another chance. These are all in alphabetical order because that's how my CDs are sort of picked up. And the idea is that, I thought about it, and I haven't tried to include stuff that I own on vinyl. I've tried to go with just stuff that I own on CD. There's no greatest hits in here, anything like that. So next up, we have Alice in Chains with The Devil Put Dinosaurs Here. No longer their newest release. It was for a very long time. Again, one I listened to almost religiously when it first came out, but never really given it a chance. Moving on to something that has recently just been reissued. This is Anthrax with State of Euphoria. This is one that I never really gave a chance. I'm more of a amongst the living sort of a guy, spreading the disease. And this is one that I've just got in the collection, just never really thought about, giving it a chance and giving it multiple listens. Next up, some classic Beastie Boys with Licensed to Ill. Next up, and could be a controversial one, we have Bon Jovi, Slippery When Wet. Of course, you hear the singles of this all the time. I'm more looking to find some of the deeper cuts on this one. Moving into some more grunge rock sort of stuff, we have Bush with 16 Stone. Once again, the singles on this get played all the time. Hoping to find a few more deeper cuts on this one. Right, up next, we have Cacophony with Speed Metal Symphony. Concerto is the only one I really listen to on a regular, so hoping, again, to maybe just give this album a wee bit more of a chance. I do enjoy a lot of the Marty Friedman solo stuff. Next up, we have Chevelle with La Gargora. Of course, Take Out the Gunman got a huge radio play here when it first came out. Not a lot of the other stuff did, so that's why I've gone with that one. Next, we have Danzig with their first self-titled album. Of course, everyone knows Mother from this one. That's why I've picked it, because this hasn't really gotten a lot of love from me, to be perfectly honest. Mother, of course, featured on Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, so that was my first exposure to Danzig. Next up, Deep Purple's Machine Head. Smoke on the Water, of course, Highway Star. But again, a lot of these I could just say I haven't really given a proper listen. But this is one I used to jam a whole heck of a lot when I first got it. We have Disturbed's 10,000 Fists. This is one I feel like I've needed to revisit for a long, long time. Way overdue. And this next one, I just never gave a chance. I really enjoy the rest of their discography. We have Dream Theater with 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. It's ironic because a lot of the people I talk to really rate this album, but it's one I just never really got into, so I'm hoping maybe with another listen that might change. Next up, Faith No More with Album of the Year. This was a more recent pickup for me that, again, it got the treatment of just getting put straight on the iPod and never made it into the CD player. Looking to change that, of course. Fleetwood Mac's Tango in the Night. I do believe this got a repress on vinyl, the Record Store Day. So, the self-titled and Rumours are the ones people normally go for. We've got Tango in the Night right here to give a listen to at some point or another. Next up, we have Fozzy, Chasing the Grail. Of course, Fozzy features Chris Jericho on vocals. Bit of a wrestling fan, so I picked this up. I have heard Fozzy music in the past. Of course, Judas was really big when it came out. Not featured on that album, but looking to expand my Fozzy knowledge a wee bit. Next up, a man I have seen live, and I haven't listened to this in a good long time. This is Gary Clark Jr. with Black and Blue. I used to think the song Numb was the greatest song of this, and then I started, really experimenting with some of the other stuff. But it has been a long time since that has got any sort of play. Moving on to our next Gary, we have Gary Moore with Corridors of Power. I'm more of a run to cover sort of guy. Run for cover, I should say. So I went with this one. There was a few other ones I could have gone with, maybe After the War, something like that. That's the one I picked, and hoping to get a pleasant surprise when I listen to it. Green Day's Nimrod. I was listening to this a lot in 2012. Obviously, it has been a long time since then. So we've gone with a bit of Green Day to get us in that sort of punk rock mood. Not a bad album of what I remember it. Next up, a band I have seen live quite recently. This is Halestorm with Into the Wildlife. Of course, their new album, Vicious, is just phenomenal, and I listen to The Strange Case of constantly. This being their third album, I probably could have picked their first album as well, but decided to go with that one. Next up, Highly Suspect, The Boy Who Died Wolf. I do have their first album on digital copy, so I went with this, just to get a bit more of a physical release. Next up, New Zealand music. We have I Am Giant, Science and Survival. This band no longer together, unfortunately. I did see them in their final performance in my hometown. They put out 3 albums, this being the middle one. So I do listen to the singles from that quite a bit in my off time, but I'm sure there's other great stuff on there. Next up, Incubus, Make Yourself. Incubus is something that I was never really into too much. And then I started hearing the singles and I was like, why aren't I into this? This fits my demographic absolutely perfectly. So that's what I've decided to go with. Next up, controversial picks coming up right here. We have Iron Maiden, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. Definitely not a bad Iron Maiden album at all. Just not really the era that I was too into. I'm more, that late 90s, early 2000s. No Prayer for the Dying, Brave New World. I listen to those all the time. Never really got into Seventh Son. Next up, some Joe Bonamassa. This was my first exposure to Joe Bonamassa. However, I get caught in the web of listening to his newest stuff, such as Driving Towards the Daylight and Blues of Desperation. So we've gone with Dust Bowl here to give a little listen to. Moving on to our next Joe, we have Joe Satriani with Crystal Planet. Really could have picked anything from Joe Satriani. This is what I decided to go with, and yeah, again, hoping to find some deep cuts on that. It's been a long time. One I've never listened to, and I'm sure if Channel 33 RPM is watching, he will not agree with that at all. We have Judas Priest, Screaming for Vengeance. This still had the price tag on it when I pulled it off. So yeah, been digging Judas Priest lately, especially that new release, Firepower. Hoping to, get a little bit more back into their discography. Next up, we have The Killers with Hot Fuzz. Mr. Brightside is always on the radio, no matter what station you go to. It's time to give that album a listen, find some of the other cuts. Next up, we have Kiss, Dressed to Kill. It has been a long time. I've really been trying to get into Kiss a wee bit more, obviously not really of my time period. So we've gone with Dressed to Kill. I don't actually own that much Kiss on CD, so we'll start with one of the more popular ones and go from there. Next up, we have Korn with Follow the Leader. Of course, Freak on a Leash is on it. Not why I picked it, though. I do know there's quite a few blank tracks on here, so, that's going to be fun. Hopefully that pile does not fall over. Next up, Led Zeppelin, Houses of the Holy. What sort of list would this be without a little bit of Led Zeppelin? Definitely a jam. I haven't jammed it in 2 years, though, so it definitely meets the cut. Next up, Linkin Park's Meteora. I do have Hybrid Theory on vinyl, so I've listened to that quite a bit. But we've gone with one of the more popular ones. I probably could have picked something a wee bit more obscure, but want to get more in touch with Meteora. Next up, we have Leonard Skinner with Second Helping. Of course, Call Me the Breeze is on this, Sweet Home Alabama. But beyond that, I've listened to their first album a wee bit more than that one. So we've decided to go with that one instead. Next up, we have the Manic Street Preachers with Generation Terrorist. I was actually surprised with how much albums I've got from these guys. They never get a listen, though. It's criminal, almost. Moving on, we have Dave Mustaine's solo album, MD45. Never gave this a chance. It had Dave Mustaine's name on it when I was going through a big Megadeth period, so picked it up. Speaking of Megadeth, one that falls into a category almost of not really getting so much love because of the album before it. It is The System Has Failed. Recently just got a vinyl update of that one. I haven't actually picked it up yet, but looking forward to that one. Motley Crue's Girls, Girls, Girls. Of course, the documentary just came out, so had to put a bit of the crew in there. Oasis, What's the Story, Morning Glory. This might be the only one that I've potentially listened to in the last 2 years, but I honestly can't remember, so chucked it in anyway. Ozzy Osbourne's Diary of a Madman. Of course, I fall into that category of always getting caught in Blizzard of Oz territory. Pantera's The Great Southern Trendkill. Again, you end up listening to those other two albums, Cowboys from Hell and Vulgar Display Power. So that one hasn't had a good listen to in a long time. Dave Grohl's Metal Project, Probot. Of course, Shake Your Blood, I hear quite a bit on the radio. However, the rest of the album is a bit of a blur to me. We've got some Queen coming in with The Game. Of course, listen to Queen all the time, but never really that specific album. From Queen to Queensryche, we have Operation Mindcrime. The last time I heard this, I think, was when I was watching the DVD of them doing that in its entirety. Speaking of the Chili Peppers, we have Californication, one that it's been too long. Rob Zombie, The Venomous Rats Regeneration Bender. That is a very big mouthful right there. Gone with that one. Rush's 2120. Should be a good listen. I was listening to Farewell Kings earlier. Farewell to Kings, I should say. Shehard with Killjoy. Again, I was listening to Shehard earlier. Decided to go with that one. Yes, that one still does have the price tag on it. That one's a bit of a weird time period for Shehard for me. Stone Temple Pilots with Core. Really could have gone with anything from Stone Temple Pilots. Them Crooked Vultures, their only album. Please release some more music, guys. Really begging for it. Listen to a whole bunch of the singles from that, but beyond that, not too much more. Tool with Enema. Obviously still waiting for that new Tool album to drop, so I figured listening to that one could get me in the mood. And finally, we have Van Halen with 5150 featuring one Sammy Hagar. So that is it. That is my 50 album challenge. Those are the 50 albums I'm choosing to listen to. There should hopefully be a part 2 of this. Obviously, me recapping what albums I liked, which albums I didn't. And I would love to do this challenge again, because I'm looking over at my CD cabinet at the moment, and there's still a lot of stuff on there, and I can guarantee a lot of it hasn't been listened to. That'll do it. Thanks for watching the video. Thanks, Channel 33 RPM, for coming up with this challenge. I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it. And until next time, thanks for watching. See you later.